It's just preparing the live stream.
I think it is all right now.
Everybody else?
Go.
Right, go. Okay. Good evening and welcome to this meeting of Woodley Town Council's Strategy and Resources Committee being held on the 21st of April 2026 today. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded with recordings streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of you attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. For those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight, so if you hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of Woodford Park. Right, onto the agenda. Any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Gilder, Kennedy and Rowland. I believe Councillor Rowland is intending to attend the meeting virtually.
Hasn't arrived as yet, though.
Okay.
Okay.
Keep an eye on that.
Any declarations of interest? Nope. Minutes of the meeting held on 27th of January 2022. These are them. 62 pages. I'm going to have to sign. Can I approve those, please, and sign? Yes. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much.
And just now, Councillor Rowland has arrived virtually.
Welcome, Beth. Actions.
Sorry, I had a problem getting in.
The town clerk had problems getting out, which is probably the reason why you couldn't get in. Right, so we're on agenda item 4, actions and follow-ups, page 5.
Thank you.
Kevin?
Yeah, I don't know if there's any questions there particularly. You can see there's a number of items completed. Those that aren't are in relation to the lease for Weeble Park. I have now had the final heads of terms, but waiting for the actual lease document. So that has moved forward. There has been some movement on that. I don't know if there's any questions on any other items.
No, just on Weeble Park. You've been doing a great job on that and got a copy of the lease. Thank you very much for that. Is there any sort of scale plans or costs for any disabled access for children, that sort of equipment, or at that stage yet? Or?
That will be included in the brief that goes out to tender, and I'm hoping to get that out this week to publish the tender document. Yeah.
Any other questions? Because I have one. Could you give us an indication, if you've got it, that the new lease, or the extension of the new lease, what financial impact does that have? Is it neutral? Is it cheaper?
It's a slight increase on the annual fee, which was a small sum. So it's £250 a year instead of £230. So
okay,
it's £20 a year.
No, that's fine. Yeah. Thank you very much. Anything else there? Nope.
I wasn't asked about the budget, but that's for me. That's the meeting.
Okay. Right, so moving on. Finance Manager Report, page 7.
Yes, thank you, Chair. Let's just draw your attention to some of the main areas in the finance report. So the final outturn position for the council was a favourable variance against the revised budget, £52,000. You can see that on page 7 of the report. There are further details in the appendices, Appendix A for the outturn. In terms of this committee, Strategy and Resources Committee, the final outturn there was an adverse variance, but only £8,000 against the revised budget, so just over 1% of the net spend. What that means for general reserves, although they have gone down as we expected because we've incurred a net spend, they've gone down by less than the revised budget, so we've actually ended up with more than we were anticipating. So that potentially pushes us closer by the end of 26-27 to the targeted level of £605,000, which is in the budget build report. That's subject to changes in priorities and other things arising in the year, of course, but just on a purely sort of numeric basis, it pushes us in a good direction.
Can we ask questions?
When
Later.
when Darren's finished his report.
Other positions covered in the report, the earmark reserves on table 4 and detailed in appendix B. So it's £586,000 in the final balance of earmark reserves. They are detailed, as I said, in appendix B, but by each specific reserve. The report also sets out our CCLA investment levels, current loan status and expected seal funds as the final part of the report. So you can see the CCLA investments are detailed in Appendix C. The loan status and the remaining time frame of the repayments are detailed in Appendix D.
Okay. Just before I throw it open to questions, I think Kessa's probably runs ahead of you with a question. Can I just say thank you for the new style reports. I think you've addressed everybody's questions, concerns, like earmark reserves and loans, when they're going to, I think it's really, really good. So thank you for that. We're beginning to get some. So Kester, did you say you had a question on the budget?
That's one of what the budget will be for Weevil Park. That might be tomorrow.
Okay.
That's the Ross Committee.
Will be later.
Unless you have.
I can tell you the
It was 40, wasn't it?
it was 40,000 agreed for capital funding for the project. Yeah.
Very quick question. You mentioned 8,000 adverse variance. Does that mean that we need to dip into the reserve by 8,000 to cover that?
In isolation, we spent more than the revised budget for SNR, but overall the council spent £50,000 less. So that's just looking at the SNR committee in isolation. So yes and no, because the overall council is a favourable variance, it counteracts that.
So we're in a very good position.
In a better position than we were, absolutely.
Yeah.
He's an accountant, he will never agree to anything that's very good. To that phrase. But the details are on page 9.
Page 9.
5.1.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, we obviously don't was going to happen in 26, 27, but where we thought it was going to be, yes.
Yes. Lovely. Thank you. Yeah.
Any other questions? Nope. Okay.
To reiterate the report's subject.
Don't know who you're going to top it, Darren. Find a secret stash on the.
Yeah.
Okay. That was just to receive. So we note the payments of 5B. So that's just for noting. 5C is to receive the second interim report, page 27. So you're going to cover
So
just the highlights?
Yeah, this is the second interim report from April Skies Internal Audit. I really just want to draw you to the matters arising on page 37 and just cover those off in terms of the recommendations. So the first one was about the VAT reporting. That's been addressed. It was just on the day of his visit, wasn't able to retrieve some transactional data for him from the system, but we can locate it now in the suite. The massive suite of reports are in the system, so just a matter of not being able to locate it on the day. The second recommendation about compliance with digital data requirements, that's covered in today's agenda later on. The bank reconciliation was just a timing issue in terms of when a posting is made in the accounts and when the actual bank payment leaves the account. So we've addressed that for year end. So we just make sure it's on the same day. It's not normally a problem. It only becomes a problem at year end, which is why I highlighted it. But we got ahead of the curve there and addressed it. And the external auditor recommendation in the last point about clarifying his independence, that has already been covered in an earlier report. It's in the full council report of the 2nd December. But it was just clarifying that point there. So there aren't really any issues arising from that visit, particularly.
Any questions on that?
No.
It's good to see that. Sorry.
No question, but Councillor Horskins has messaged to say could Matt can send in the Zoom link that he'd asked for.
It's on its way. Yeah. Yeah, I think the auditor's reports have been pretty good over the last few years.
Yeah.
And Yes, there's issues, but nothing really significant or major, and they've been dealt with. And that's the whole concept of having an audit, identify issues and correct them. Right, so on to item 6A, bookings and room hire, page 38. Who's covering this?
I'm just trying to send that
Okay.
link, unless Matt, you can dive in and send it for me.
I don't have the link. I don't think.
Might be able to do it quicker than I
Sorry.
can do it when I'm doing it.
Is this Oakwood Centre?
Item 6.
So the Oakwood Centre income charts, as we normally provide to this meeting, reflecting the end of year outturn figures, which obviously were covered in Darren's report earlier. It shows that for obviously Oakwood Centre room hire on Appendix 6A on page 38, the Oakwood Centre against a budget last year of 107,000 achieved £88,000. Whilst the Oakwood Centre catering income from the catering concession through Crumbs achieved an income of 10,700 against a budget of 6,700.
Any questions? Yes, of course you can, Greg.
On page 38, perhaps I'm misreading it, but it says actual 2024-25, and then I saw actual 25-26. Am I misreading it, or is this lower than it should be?
Yes, it absolutely is. So you'll see that essentially in 23-24 we made 102, and in 24-25 made 104.6. The budget for 25, 26, 27 went up by RPI. Actually, in what was agreed as the budget, there was a mistake, and it was actually estimated at £74,000. But all the way through the year, we said it should have been that last year's figure plus RPI, which is that 107. So we were anticipating we should have hit the same figure as last year plus RPI. But as you can see, we are well under that. We have done some analysis on the room hire data.
Do we know why?
It's an interesting one. The number of room hires in the buildings, the number of actual bookings has increased ever so slightly this year on last year, but the average number of rooms hired at the time has reduced slightly. And we've also gone down from just over 5 hours on average per booking to just under 4 hours per booking, which that appears to be one of the major reasons for those changes. We do have an issue with this centre, which is that the reporting system we have through our current booking system is very limited in terms of getting data out. So we can't, without manually looking at every single hire, work out what charge rate they are on. Something we can do, it takes a long time, but we are moving to a new bookings app this year through our IT provider that will enable us to be able to report on that far better and give a much clearer focus on that. You will also note the confidential item later on in the agenda, makes some suggested structure changes to staff, and one of the reasons for that is to actually provide a greater business focus on this building and all of council services from buildings.
Because it's a good asset, and yeah, we ought to be making more use of it, really.
Yeah, I think over the years we've been very reliant on repeat business, return business, word of mouth to spread it. There's been fairly little, or at least very little, effective marketing of the building or going out and selling it. We started to look at that with the theatre as one asset that we don't sweat enough here, and that project's obviously still ongoing. But the building as a whole, as well as our community halls and everything, needs to have greater focus, and that's partly what the structure changed. Obviously we won't go too much into that here because of the confidential manner, but part of that is starting to try and address that, because there is a bit of a gap in staffing of a level to really focus on that.
Any other questions? Because I've got a comment. Numbers are great. The 5.5 hours to 4 hours and what have you. But what's probably a little bit more important is what's behind those. So in other words, has there been a major hirer dropout? And I'm thinking, for instance, I know it's probably a year ago now, but Woodley Players, when they stopped performing and they performed exclusively here, clearly that's going to take an impact. So what I would like to see, and I hope the committee agree with me, going forward, we have just a very simple thumbnail sketch of, who we've lost and who have we gained.
That would be helpful.
We do have that data, so as part of the data we pulled together, we did actually list it by hirer to see where those hire activities are, and we know that sort of, I haven't got the data here.
Well, don't worry, this is for
But we
next
do
time.
have it, so I can, what I will do, I can share it with the S&R committee, send it round to you so you can see it now, what that data shows. You'll be able to see the regular hirers, the numbers they've had over the last 3 years, and that will give you an idea for the building as a whole. It's a start, as I say, it's difficult to get the data out, but you're absolutely right, there's more to it than just...
Yeah.
there's a lot to it, so yeah, I can send that.
Can I make a plea, certainly on my behalf? Don't swamp us with numbers. Don't give us a list of 55 hirers. I'm expanding, I'm making it.
You find that the data's already been pulled into a fairly simple report format that you should be able to understand the data from.
But we need commentary that also says.
Categorise it
Yeah.
into things like private hires,
Yeah.
commercial hires,
Yeah,
that sort of thing.
We can do some more work on that,
That'd
absolutely.
be good.
all right.
But that'll be useful going forward anyway, won't
It's
it?
the start, it's the start
Yes.
of our reporting model. And to be honest, what we need to start bringing to here is that level of detail, not just the financial report, which doesn't tell us anything.
Well, this was fine when we're doing the good, because you don't need that detail. It's when you aren't doing so well, that's when you need to drill down into specifics. And maybe if a hirer drops out, a phone call to find out why.
Yeah.
Yeah. Any other questions, comments now? Okay, so we move on. Those are both note. PR and marketing to a note report. SR 926 of the PR and marketing subcommittee, page 40. Who's taking this? Anybody?
Yeah, so thank you. Hopefully you can accept that as the report, and the recommendation was to take up the policies that we looked at around communications and marketing policies. Which are,
Questions or comments?
No.
so this is the revised version. We have been back twice to have a look at this, so due diligence has been done, and that's from page 44 onwards. And I would just like to point out one thing that we did have a discussion about that, but we felt it was a good thing to do. On page 46, in policies going forward, there will be a section marked legislation and guidance, and that will give you the background as to where the policy or strategy has come from, more policy than strategy. But that will be in each one. Yeah, no, we need the date approval, but they've
There's no
it's in
review
hand.
date.
No, we know that there's no review date. We pointed that out at the meeting, didn't we?
Yeah, that's going to be added into all policies moving
Yeah.
forward, as we're going to be reviewing a lot of policies throughout this year, to get back on top of that in terms of governance stage. And one of the things to add is those.
Just because it's my last year. You're up in the workload.
It's called continuous improvement.
I thought you liked me.
Let's write with the
Yeah.
Is there any questions on, because we've got two recommendations to vote on. I have a question on the advertising one. It's not a question, it's a comment.
Yeah.
Quite rightly, it says, from memory, somewhere in here we go. Page 52, which at the top of it, prohibited advertising is political, religious, excluding notices for local services or ideological campaigning. Don't have a problem with that. However, that could be read that we couldn't advertise anything that's coming from the borough on elections or something like that.
That's not political, that's
Well,
democratic.
Yeah, I think.
all I'm asking is just if we could just change the wording
Yeah.
to, because I think you've got somewhere in here, excluding notices for local services. Well, this would be effectively one of those things, the notice that the borough give you.
So would that not be covered under it then, if it excludes?
Well, all I'm saying is that local services can mean anything, so that could
That's
be.
the idea.
Okay, all right.
So that it gives us some wiggle room, and then we can have a discussion about, so if it is a local election, does that fall under local services?
Okay.
I mean, I'm happy to change it if you can, what do you want dropped? The political word?
Is it the emphasis, because I think what it's saying is political campaigning, religious campaigning, ideological campaigning.
Campaigning.
Is it better to say any campaigning of a political,
Religious
religious
nature.
or ideological?
Yes.
Is it just
Yeah.
Just recast it.
just
Move
make
it
the
round.
preference on the right wording?
Yeah, absolutely.
Because you've got to remember, a lot of us here aren't going to be here next year, and this is a legacy.
Yeah,
So you
to
could
be
get,
reviewed annually.
yeah, but you could get someone who is a bit pedantic and say, oh, you can't do the TRS, you can't do, etc. But I think that's, for me, that's perfectly
Yeah.
okay if that's okay.
Good, that's fine.
Does that include, ideology include churches and so forth?
Include.
Churches and so forth. Religious ideology, that sort of thing, advertising church
I think it's the
maybe.
campaigning bit, isn't it? Ideological campaigning. I think advertising a event is not campaigning.
Proselytising is what we're stopping.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
Yeah, so clarity, okay, exclude this.
But if we change it round, I think your slight tweak of the language will
Yeah, slight
support
broader
that.
Sorry to be annoying, but should there be something in that paragraph that says how you're going to resolve? You know, like you said, if it will go and presume the committee or something, you know, any,
There is an appeals section under section
Is
8
that-
that says it will go to the
Got it.
go to the town
All
clerk.
okay,
requests
fine,
have to go
it's
to the
covered,
town clerk.
thank you.
All right.
Yep, fine. Right, so if it's okay with you, I'm going to take both together.
Yep.
All those in favour, please show.
That's everyone 6, thank you.
Even Beth. Woodley Town Centre Partnership, page 53. Just having a look, Greg, you were there?
Yeah, just a comment. There are some people in the room who will know what I'm referring to, but it would be nice, we're working on page 53, item 5. I'm working on trying to dovetail with Wokingham Borough Council so that they invite Bill Soane to their meetings and engage with the Woodley Town Council a little better.
Or at all?
Or at all. So, yeah, that's something to watch because Mr. Heskin seems to have an idea of strategy which is different to our understanding, I think, David.
Mr. Chair, we did have another town centre management meeting on Wednesday last week. And I brought that point up with, what's his name, Warwick Hiskins, and told him that by no way have they got a strategy until such time as they've spoken to the town council in detail and got the steering group up and running. His words to me was, I take your point, but I've got plans to set up the steering group in June.
Can I make a proposal that the town clerk and the mayor send a note to the leader of the council and the chief executive saying that we're not happy with this lack of engagement. It always seems to be another month, another,
Oh,
so
yeah.
I can remember this has been going on for a long time.
Long time, yeah.
And ask them to step in and obviously whatever wordsmith.
And do we have an idea of who will be on that steering committee from us?
Yes.
Bill Soane.
Soane's appointed to it, it just hasn't met and doesn't have any terms of reference or
So
anything
one,
yet.
we've got one person on that
Yeah.
steering group.
Who they're not inviting.
I mean, to be perfectly honest, I think we should have at least 2
I agree.
Yeah.
on that committee,
Yeah, I agree with
if
that.
not 3.
Well, we certainly need more than one if it's about us.
Definitely, yeah.
So maybe we could add that into
And
the letter.
we also need at least 1 from the town centre
I've
partnership.
got you,
on that.
Beth, just hang on.
Yeah.
Beth,
Chairman, may I suggest that that's brought up at the town centre, the partnership meeting that's held between the borough and the towns, because we may not be the only town that's objecting to some interference from the borough.
It's not interference, it's that we're not involved.
yeah,
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
it's the
well,
absolute
yeah.
reverse.
Yeah.
So picking up your point, Mike Kennedy's our representative on that, isn't he?
On the borough liaison, yeah.
Yeah, so we'll make sure that Mike has a copy of the letter, which he then can present to the next liaison.
Thank you.
Full council meetings now have a section for town and parish councils to ask a question. I suggest that a representative,
That would be
we
good.
ask a question at the meeting in May.
Yeah, we can certainly do that.
Well,
We-
let's
we-
just do as much as we can
Yeah.
to make ourselves a bit of a irritant.
Yes.
Also, may I ask if there was any mention of how much the borough will be investing in a centre, a strategy plan?
The only thing you can get out at the moment is they have no money spare.
It spends on the hubs.
So,
There's a talking shop.
which is another reason why it can't be a strategy.
So just to note that the process for that asking of the question is we can approve that at full council on the 5th of May for that to be asked at an appropriate meeting. of
Even
borough
though that's
council. It's
an
a bit
annual,
long-winded.
even though that's the annual meeting.
We can still, we still carry out any other business that the council wishes to do. In the meantime, that won't hold up the sending of the letter.
And I think we need to be prepared. If we don't get an answer or a satisfactory answer, we go to the press. You know, last resort, but
We've been talking about this for so long.
yes.
It's
And
like-
thank you, Greg, for all the stuff that you're doing
Keep pushing
on our behalf. You're in there as a borough member. But anyway,
Incidentally, can I make one other comment? I was very disappointed at the Town Centre Partnership last Wednesday. There were only 3 councillors there. Myself, Councillor Gilder and Councillor Holmes as chair. 3 police and Brian. And that were the only people that turned up for the meeting. Or apart from Warwick Heskins.
So no shop
No.
owners.
It's very poor,
So
isn't
no,
it?
no borough
Well, I think that speaks
representatives.
volumes, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You know, if a meeting's important and people feel like they're going to get action, they'll come.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's right.
I mean, I can inquire with the town centre manager as to why that might be, because I know the previous meeting was busy and well attended, wasn't it? So I'm not sure what happened with that one. But
and is there any allocated councillor to the TCMP
There are.
that, well, I know there are.
Yeah.
Let me finish. That are regularly not turning up. Because if there's an individual that's doing that, then we should be lobbying for them to be replaced.
Chair, could I just say, I think councillor Jewell submitted her apologies. She'd had a nasty fall a few days before and she was quite a mess. Her face was all cut and she was very stiff and could hardly walk. No serious damage, except to her pride, of course.
Thank you for that clarification, Beth.
So I know we don't have a huge amount of power or control over it, but do we need to look at the terms of reference of it and have a bit of a poke around and see whether it's a really functioning committee? Because we've had quite a lot of feedback from it in the past that's been a bit wishy-washy and non-decision making, and I worry that it's a bit of a talking shop and isn't very effective, but I don't know what control or power we have over that, if any.
Pretty well zero, because it was an independent body
Yes.
and the town council got into some issues around that, wasn't it? I think it was that. And as a consequence of that, they were incorporated into the town council structure. So the council and
Run it.
Mary Holt, chairs it.
and it kept the independent
so it has an independent chairperson.
Right.
But it's also got
Brian
its
has an
independent
input with the
rules.
council, but ultimately its activities do come through the strategy and report to the Strategy and Resources Committee.
But they've got their own constitution,
But it
which is one that was inherited and brought forward to reinforce that independence.
Although that constitution is in the format of the terms of reference as a council
Yeah.
partnership. I mean, it might be perhaps worth a conversation if the chairperson and Brian attended the next strategy resources meeting, perhaps, and had a conversation. Yeah.
You got all that? All those actions? Okay. So if we're okay on that, I'll move on to the capital projects. Page 56.
So you can see the current projects outlined there. Most projects are now complete except for the provision of the replacement notice boards, which had some funding allocated, but we've realised that there'd be significantly more additional funding would be needed. So we're still looking at that, and it was considered non-urgent at this point as a project. The other two items on there were with regard to the purchase of the new mobile tower for the amenities team, the tables for the Oakwood Centre, and those will be those items purchased in the coming weeks. Excuse me, let me find my place. So, and that's what you can see in that table on page 58. The rest of the information is to note on page 57, sorry, in the report. One of the things I just wanted to draw members' attention to, you'll see there's no request here for any additional funding at this point. There is, however, in the recommendation for a consideration that expenditure, which has not been fully established yet through a tendering process, but there's an upper end limit, we think, of around 140,000 potentially for replacement of fire doors at Woodford Park Leisure Centre. Long and short of that, that's an outside or upper end price for replacement of all doors. What we're doing at the moment is we've arranged for an independent risk assessment to look at replacement of specific doors and prioritise those on the basis of risk assessments. It might well be that this one needs replacing, that one's okay because you've done certain things rather than a blanket replacement, because there's not necessarily a requirement to replace them all to the standard as if you were putting in brand new doors in an older building. So we're just establishing that at the moment. What I'm asking here is that just to flag that up, because when we do get to that point, we will need to move on that project relatively swiftly. And the recommendation there is just that that expenditure be met from the earmarked reserve, which was set up for Woodford Park Leisure Centre building and facilities from that fund. That includes the sum that was put into there, which was from the VAT reclaim money, and the committee resolved to put that into the same pot, and that money is for these purposes in terms of maintenance of the building.
Great.
Just one quick question. 140,000, is that good value for money?
It's a guide price which was obtained through the South East Consortium, which is a framework arrangement of multiple providers. So they do that procurement exercise. They don't normally give those prices out, but I managed to have some conversations with them. They were able to give me some pricing for it, which is indicative of what we might be looking at if we went to tender.
My comment for that is fire door is value for money no matter what it costs.
Right.
Because I would not like to be sitting here and we haven't done our job, replaced a fire door, and there's a death or a serious injury. All of us would be liable.
Yeah.
So to me, it is a no-brainer. Obviously, I'd like it lower, but it has to be done.
And from the procurement perspective, we'll go through that framework, and that'll be best pricing.
Alison?
I mean, as the chairman says, safety is certainly our first priority. It's quite a while since our Health and Safety Advisor Peninsula identified we have an issue with fire doors. So when is it we expect we will have completed replacing as necessary?
The assessor's coming in the first week of May, so we will have that report very soon after that. As soon as we've got that report, we'll be able to get the procurement done for that, so we know exactly what we're looking at in terms of doing that.
When was it that the issue was identified?
I haven't got the date for the initial survey. It wasn't something that was flagged up in the fire risk assessment for the building when we had that done last year. So we subsequently had an inspection done of all fire doors, both in this building and at Woodford Park Leisure Centre, which is what flagged up those issues. I haven't got the date handy for that, but I can let you know what that is.
Okay,
How many doors are there to be replaced?
A lot.
So lots.
I haven't got
100 doors, 1,000 doors?
There's lots. There's double door sets and single door sets. Again, I haven't got the number to hand here. I can find that and let you know what that breakdown is.
But that, once they've done the survey, it might not be that many, because,
No.
you know, you can
Could be
often
less.
Yeah.
leave one in the middle, can't you?
Yeah.
Any other questions? I have a request, please. On the table, when you do this again, can you add a column funded from? Because the fact that the fire doors is in essence funded from the earmark reserves, that's buried in the text.
Yeah, when it, what I would say, we can do that definitely. When that comes to land in the table, which you can see on the following page where we report that back through, we have added that column so that it's clear where those things are funded from. It's added to the list. But yeah, I'll tell you what, it's not mentioned there.
Or do you need per tables?
I think the first table is the table on that other page is prospective horizon projects and the rough costs. I think the reason we haven't put where it's funded from, because it hasn't been funded yet, and we might be asking from different pots. So until we know exactly where we're going to ask for funding from, it doesn't. But when that's been approved on the other projects,
So part of the approval process is still where it's going to be funded in a clear subset.
Yeah.
Put it in the table, do.
Yep, this is a new format for the report, and yeah, welcome input on that, so we can change it and give you what you need.
Okay, so can I take the first recommendation? Sorry.
When masking doors are changed, so they're sort of, obviously expiring, it depends on wear and tear, isn't it? So the last, what's the lifespan of it?
It depends. It's less of a lifespan of the door. It's subject to inspection. They haven't been done for some time, certainly.
Is it a case that legislation can change so the standard alters?
Yeah.
So the doors originally would have been compliant?
Absolutely, and
Yeah.
then the standard, as you said, moves, and it doesn't necessarily apply to new. It applies to new installations, but not necessarily to existing.
Yeah, it's different doors. Hard to say, so.
Okay, so I'm going to move to the recommendations. I'm going to take them together. Well, one's to note, but we approve the expenditure for the replacement. For all those in favour, please. Please show. David? not that I'm pressurising.
Is that a long day?
You don't want to be noticed as the one councillor who did not vote for. Wouldn't go down well. Right, community grants. Oh no, this is going to be an interesting one. Right, the first thing, we go to page 59, the report.
Can I just clarify the funding for this? So it says here, if all grants are approved, this will lead to 120 overspend in the budget, while further grant applications are likely to be sick by committee in November. So if we approve all these, it's 120 and we cannot look at any more in November.
Yeah.
Is that what this says?
Yeah.
Right, got it, thank you. So if we want to spread it over 2 cohorts, we need to significantly reduce what we give today. Right, okay, thank you.
Right, so what we normally do, but we can always do it differently, is we go through them, not on a case-by-case basis, but look at any that are obviously not appropriate. Let's do the easy, the low-hanging fruit first, not appropriate, and then move up the tree to see what else. Is that, excuse me, an okay approach for everyone?
Yeah.
So give us your list of the ones that you don't think are appropriate. The guideline often is how much, when they give figures of how many Woodley people are.
Yeah.
So can I just start with probably a very unpopular view? Woodley C of E Primary School is a publicly funded school and there are lots of them in Woodley. I appreciate it's for a thing, but I would have thought that would be the sort of thing that a PTA would raise money for.
Yes. I would totally agree.
Good point.
We have in the past given grants to various primary schools that have applied for help.
Okay, well, I'm just looking at what I've got in front of me and that is the one that I think, or reduce it, if you want to give them something. I mean, the trouble is there are precedents, aren't there? Some of these we've given money to since time immemorial, by the looks of it.
Could I just comment, Chairman, on the last one, Woodley Showstoppers, a new applicant? They comment that they want to put on a showcase performance at the Reading Rep Theatre. We've got a wonderful theatre here. Has that been discussed with them?
They approached Reading Rep and Reading Rep offered their theatre for free to do it. So their reasons for doing so, I don't know. We can obviously discuss them with our theatre, and then if they want it for free, we can bring that request to this committee. It's another point.
And if you look at it in terms of cost benefit, they're all from Woodley.
We could basically say, we're not going to give you 320, but we'll give you free use of the theatre. I don't know, would
They've
that?
got the Reading Rep.
Yeah, but we're saying if you're Woodley, you should be coming here and we'll do exactly what Reading Rep, and ours is a better theatre.
Yes.
It's not-
Allegedly,
it's not
okay,
better
okay.
theatre than Reading
All right.
Rep.
No.
Okay. So we're doing very well at reducing.
Just a quick comment. Chair,
Yeah,
Berkshire MS Therapy Centre, 400 members, 15 from Woodley.
Yeah, it's not really.
Bit low.
What do other people think about that one?
I think it's a good charity. I think they had a run of getting money from us, didn't they? And then it stopped in 22, so that's 4 years they haven't had anything.
Oh, right.
Put it twice.
It is a good charity. I, you know, for those 15 people, it's probably a bit of a lifeline, but it's not going to go under without our donation. I mean, it depends. I think what I'd really quite like to do is decide on how much we're going to dish out, because we could go through all of these and just lop 100 quid off of each of them.
Oh, right.
So what is our budget for this? Are we planning to do 2 lots, one in now and one in November, or are we planning to blow it all on this one lot? But if we sort of had a budget in mind, we could mess around with some of the figures.
What are other councillors' view on that? Splitting the budget?
I would suggest that the ones that we previously gave 250 for, but they're asking 350 this year, we continue to give them 250.
That way
If we spend half of it, we've got 1,500, haven't we?
Yeah, but is that what we want to do? We want to split it into 2? I think we do, because we haven't actually told everybody that there's only going to be 1 round.
Yeah.
So some people might be waiting until November, and I think that would be disadvantaging people if we don't do 2 rounds.
That's a good suggestion.
What do other councillors think about that? 15, it's going to make the decision this time round a lot harder, but it breaks the spiral. It puts in a better distribution from my perspective.
So 150, we've got 1,500.
Let's vote. All those in favour of splitting it half in April, half in November? Unanimous.
I think there's not, I think I've counted 9 of them. So,
It's £166.66p if you split that. If you split that by 9, I know I recognise one of them has asked for ever so slightly less, but yeah, that's the exact split.
Good.
You might want to round it to 165, but
So now that we've made that decision, the other, I'm just trying to simple ways to move forward, because we could spend all night on this, just one topic, it's easily done, is to look at the number of people that money helps.
Yeah.
So, for instance, Berkshire Vision, it's 37 members are Woodley residents.
It's the percentage that's the important bit.
Right.
2.5% versus
What is it?
4%. Yeah.
Because it's 37 investment, a better investment than 400, say, for instance, on the Festival of Music and Arts.
Well,
I'm just asking the question.
yeah.
Or Woodley Volunteer Centre, which is 300. So 300 for 169.
300 what, from Woodley Volunteer Centre?
Yeah, approximately 300 beneficiaries, all from Woodley. That's what it says.
Yeah, that's what it says. Yeah.
and those beneficiaries will be mostly Woodley residents.
But, yeah. And we're here to represent Woodley residents. I'm just putting on the table, and at the end of the day, it'll be up to the votes of you guys.
Yeah.
As I said, you could say, if you go for numbers, or you could go for percentage. It's another way of going for it. And use that top down.
Yeah.
Well,
It would be lovely, Darren, if at some point next year you could knock up a formula
Thank
and
you,
we
Darren.
could do this properly
Yeah.
based on percentages. But if all you're looking at is the numbers,
You have to consider, in some cases,
Which I
you'll
don't think
have,
you are.
in some cases, it depends, I guess, what the total cost of a project is compared. So I know, for example, Showstoppers are looking for, I think they need about £500 funding to fill up, in total, to fill up what they need to run that show in the summer. And they're asking us for 320 because they've worked out where the rest of that funding will come from. Woodley COB Primary School, as an example, they've costed the entire project for the garden at £5,000 and asking for 350. So you kind of also have to add into the fact of the cost of what those people are getting. So it might be that the people who attend Berkshire MS Therapy Centre, the cost of the treatment they're getting could be much higher than the thing. So it's very complex, depending on however you want to look at it.
Have there been any individual applications or not?
No, they'll be come through on here otherwise. Yeah.
So the £3,000 is the combined grant
It is
budget?
the combined, your budget for this year, and that's the 9,000. And you, it was correctly stated earlier, obviously, a number of people have got into the habit of applying at the same point each year, and we have people that apply in November that, for one reason or another, won't even think of applying in April because they apply in November every year. Despite it's only that they can only apply once in the year, but it's just habitual.
okay, I've got it to 1,550, if you're interested. Number one, Berkshire Therapy, 150.
Yeah.
Berkshire Vision, 100. Life Education, 100. Step Together, 150. Bowling Club, 200. C of E, 100. Woodley Festival Arts, 300, because they fill this place and bring in business.
Yeah.
Volunteer Centre, 300. Showstoppers, 150.
Excellent.
That's 1,550.
Why only 100 for
I'm
the
not, because
South
it
Lake
seemed like
Primary?
a.
What's the formula?
Because it should be a PTA then. There's no formula. We've just said there's no formula.
Robert, your contribution, please.
The other thing is.
Hang on, Beth. Robert
Sorry.
first. Robert. can't
Thank
hear
you, Chairman. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Right. £100 is nothing to these charities. I think if we're going to spend less money, we need to make more significant changeable amounts to ones that are closer to us. So rather than just dishing everybody down a bit, maybe we should actually strike out a couple of these applications. So, for example, I don't know any facts behind this because I haven't looked at them, sorry. Berkshire MS Therapy Centre, 9 paid staff. How much is their CEO paid? You know, maybe we should be looking at these sorts of things. Berkshire Vision, 30 paid staff. Let's look at the ones that actually got the volunteers.
Well,
community grant.
And I
MS
think-
have got 60 volunteers, Bob.
Yeah, but I really think, and I also think, we should really stay with the same amount of money for the bowling club, because you know they are an integrated part of Woodford Park and of Woodley itself, and have been kicking around for 60 years. So I think maybe we should be looking at that rather than just chucking £100 at the Berkshire
Okay.
Therapy Centre. You know,
What,
my
you're not
opinion.
gonna fund then?
Well,
Well, if we can.
No.
Beth first, and then I'm going to have a comment. Beth.
Just one comment on Woodley Festival of Music and Arts. No state-run school takes part in that. All the entrants and everything are from private schools, so fee-paying schools. So I would suggest that doesn't
true.
actually need any money that
Sorry.
we're giving to it.
Sorry, Beth, that's not true. When I was mayor of Wokingham Borough Council, I went to several of their events. A couple of them were in state schools.
Not many are. I give you not many estate schools, but it is open to state schools. And it
When
brings
I
lots
was
of
when I was mayor, I met with the lady because I wanted to get them to see if they could do something with state schools, and she told me that no state schools were interested in taking part.
Well, that wasn't the case when I was the borough mayor. I'm sorry.
So without any data, I don't think we should be
So
discussing.
I'm going to suggest,
Yeah.
because we really do need to bring this to a close.
Yeah.
I'm going to pick up Juliet's, one of her many points, percentages. I'm going to suggest we do a percentage. The higher the percentage, the more they get.
Yes.
So, for instance, the highest percentage is going to be Woodley Bowling Club,
Yeah,
right? Because that's going to be nearly 100%.
definitely.
I would suggest if we can look at, if we give, as we go through this, so that would be 350.
So in principle, are we giving everybody something? No. Right, okay.
Absolutely not. We have to move away from this approach that we've been able to do because we had the luxury of excess funds. We can't always satisfy everybody's demands. It's tough, and we've never had to do it before, but we need to start. So the 40%. So that would be 350. Woodley Bowling Club.
Yeah.
The next, I think. Well, we don't know the total Woodley Volunteer Centre, but I would imagine that's 100%.
Well, what about the schools though? Because they're all Woodley kids, aren't they? So you're going to give those?
What, Woodley Festival of Musical
No,
Arts?
no. You've got one that's a workshop for South Lake Primary, and then one
Yeah.
C of E.
Yeah,
What, so 350 to each of those?
Yes.
yeah.
Yeah.
If you do it on percentages, you can't, if you have a percentage, you do it on a percentage. You can't pick and change.
So you're up to over £1,000.
Yeah. The Woodley Festival of Music Arts, that's 40, roughly what, 30%, 40%?
Woodley Showstoppers is 100% Woodley children.
Okay, so the percentage isn't going to work, is it?
So you either cull it and give it to 2 or 3,
Yeah.
or you give a little bit to everybody. It depends what message you want to send, doesn't it?
I think Juliet's idea was quite sensible.
I mean, I know 100 quid is nothing,
Yes.
but it shows that
Yes.
we've read the application.
Yeah.
And funds November as well.
So do you want to put a proposal that,
No, I don't want to force people to do anything, but
No.
that adds up.
well, we have to vote on
Yeah.
what's been suggested. Yours is the only real suggestion that's,
Juliet's.
okay, all those in favour of that?
I didn't follow the suggestion.
The numbers I read out, a little bit for everybody.
A little bit
Robert
for
said it,
the
100 quid's not worth it.
1,550.
Can I just suggest, Juliet, so do you mind just going through
I will write it down.
the amounts?
I
that
can just
you-
read them quickly. I've got
Yeah.
them, but I just want to check that what numbers I got were the same
go
as
on.
yours.
MS,
150,
yeah,
100,
yeah,
100,
yeah,
150,
Yeah.
200,
Yeah.
100,
Yeah.
300,
yeah,
300,
yeah.
100.
150, I said, but if you want to make it the right amount.
Done.
That's,
Can
yeah.
I throw a spanner in the works?
Of course you can.
Berkshire MS Therapy and Berkshire Vision, why have they not received a grant since 21-22 Berkshire MS and 22-3 Berkshire Vision?
Have they applied?
I don't know.
Well, we don't have that.
Probably would have done. A decision would have been, but
It just
it's more
seems to
likely,
me to
it's more
be.
likely that we made a
Yeah,
decision to
just,
say
yeah,
no.
the date on Berkshire Vision is wrong. The second one should be 22, 23,
Yeah, I
just so
mean,
you
there's
know.
4
But
years
it's
that,
23, 24.
The MS haven't made application or
That should be 22, 23.
it should be 22, 23. Yeah.
Can I, so we voted on it, so we've got a plan. Can I also suggest the ones like the comments about parents, the PTA should be funding some of this stuff. When we give the grant,
Sorry, Chairman. Both schools put in their narrative that, the South Lake Primary School are paying over £1,000 towards it, and the C of E mentioned that it's a £5,000 project from the donations and fundraising events, so they are, I'm sure they are working very hard.
We are a very small bit of it, which is why I don't think it matters if we give them 200 quid or 300 quid. It's
Yeah.
a drop in the ocean compared with the total amount.
Yeah.
But it shows
all I
willing.
was going to say is just say, because these are, I'm looking for others. Yeah, the South Lake Primary School isn't a school thing. It's a workshop, life education, Wessex and tennis. So, but what I was going to say was to say to them that certainly the Woodley COE, this is your first
application. You've got it now, but we need a little bit more data, or can we help you through the PTA to get?
Yeah.
And the other thing, of course, is if they've had one grant in a year, are we going to exclude them from applying in November?
Yes, we can advance.
Yes.
Yeah, we updated
Yeah, that is in there.
our guidelines to say you can only have one grant from the council each year.
Okay, so it'll be easier in November than when.
Yeah.
Good.
Right,
Councillor Hawkins says hand up, Chair.
last point on this, please, Robert.
Very quickly, Keith, if we'd had 10 more applications, would we be spreading the jam even thinner? I think we need to look
I
at this
think
in more
we'd be
detail in the
having-
future.
We'd be having a discussion in November, wouldn't we? Because our perspective might have changed by
Yeah,
then.
November, yeah.
Thank you.
I'm not going to work on hypothetical because we need to move on. Right. So that's 59. Grants to. Oh, okay.
Yeah, so you're on to 11.
Okay, yeah. So I was looking for something else. So page 65, assertion 10, whatever that
So,
means.
yeah, if I can.
Sounds like a movie
just
title.
paint a bit of a picture as succinctly as I can. This is to do with the new assertion 10 of the annual governance and accountability return that we call the AGAR. And the reason for this being presented to the committee is on a recommendation from the internal auditor that we give members some sight and reassurance in advance of consideration of the AGAR. That actions have been taken in order for the council to meet it. Technically, it doesn't bring anything that didn't exist before, except that there's a lot more clarity around it, and it brings more specific requirements regarding a number of things to do with our accessibility for the website and data security. I'll just list those requirements. Use of official domain-based email accounts, for example, not use of personal email accounts for council business. That's something we brought in a while ago, but again, that's something that's in place. Legally compliant, accessible websites. Matt did a huge amount of work and migrated the whole website through a company that specialises in producing those so that it meets the WCAG 2.2 AA standard. Which is the requirement, and that's taken quite a lot of work and involves information being embedded in the website rather than included as attachments so that it can be read by screen readers and things like that for accessibility. Publication of required information under Freedom of Information and Transparency regulations, compliance with GDPR and Data Protection Act, and we've got those policies in place which have been approved by council for our GDPR policies, which we all reviewed last year. Secure handling of personal data, which is included in that, and the IT policy. Again, those things have been done. So just in terms of actions, full review had been carried out, website upgraded, data protection IT policies in place. They are current and published. Official domain email accounts are in place for all staff and councillors. Website is fully compliant. IT systems secure and maintained by a specialist provider, which is why that work that we've done with the provider has been so important over the last 2 years. And in conclusion, the council can with confidence answer yes to that assertion 10 when we come to that section in the AGAR. So that was just for information for members to know.
Any questions?
No.
No, okay. That was to note.
Say, I've had some trouble with mine, and Cloudy IT has been brilliant.
Good.
Has been really, really helpful.
Yeah, okay. That's helpful.
Woodford Park, Yo Chestnut, page 67, Western Avenue Access Road.
Yes, so just by way of update, this is the access road from Western Avenue into the park, which is used for multiple purposes, including council vehicles and as a pedestrian access into the park. It's also used by numerous people for parking, dropping off, all sorts of things. The land is unregistered, and despite repeated investigations, no owners has been identified over a period of many years. The current issues there are that the road surface is in poor condition with large potholes. In winter, they fill with water. It's very difficult for people to get down that access into the park. And there would be significant cost to a permanent upgrade of that area, and the council doesn't own it. Long and short of that is we are at this point able to make better repairs than we have done. We have repaired it periodically in the past, but it's been a very manual job and using bits of kit that aren't fit for it. We bought a digger last year from the capital programme, which is helping us with all sorts of projects. It has meant that we've been able to do some repairs to it already, which will last a while, and we'll be able to keep on top of that in the shorter to mid-term in being able to just maintain that area much better than we have done in the past. And I have engaged our solicitors just to provide some advice as to what the council's options might be if it was minded to try and seek ownership of that land over a period of time, which is likely to be through the process of adverse possession over controlling access.
Which apparently is extremely difficult to succeed.
Yeah, there are a lot of things around it. It's also complicated by the rights of way that exist for the residents along Western Avenue there. So there are some complications around that. And when I get that legal advice, we'll report that back. So in the shorter term, we've got a means of maintaining it, and we'll see what that advice is.
But at the bottom line, if we can't get that, we really shouldn't put ourselves in a position that we become the default owner as far as residents are concerned, which means 50,000 here, 50,000 there. We haven't got that money to.
It's difficult, and I think that the answer would be we are better able to repair it periodically. It's a bit laborious and would probably be an annual task, but we can do that, and we can do that better than we have done in the past.
Yes,
so
but that's a sticking plaster rather than the remedy.
No, yeah, agreed.
Town council vehicles need to access, so we need a road that is not going to damage our own vehicles. So there is not just improving it for our residents. I think we have got to consider that it's worth repairing it so our vehicles aren't,
I'd like to put a gate on the front. If we're going to take responsibility for it.
We can.
Well, that's a good point.
And that might be, depending on what the advice is from our solicitors. Ultimately, the principle is you need to control access and demonstrate that you've controlled access to it for that period of time. So ultimately, if you get
so that would stop.
There is that back road for a considerable number of houses on Western Avenue. You've got garages and right of way.
If you had an arrangement to allow access for those people.
But if you had it lockable and you provided keys to all those people.
It's just up to the point where they need to turn in.
Yeah.
No, I would go right to the road. Because if you don't block it, you're all you're doing is just not even putting a sticking plaster on there. You put a bit of spittle because people will still park.
Oh, they will do.
And that's the advice we're seeking.
Good idea, yeah.
Could you look into that we could have a lockable?
That's the question.
At the road.
That's what the solicitors need to
That's a good idea, yeah.
advise us, don't they?
And we can get the right of way by giving people the keys.
Yeah.
Now will be abused, but.
Yeah, but we're not there yet, are we? We need to find out what we can and can't do in terms of legality.
Robert.
Hello, I'm rather confused how somebody can have right of way over a land that nobody actually owns. The point that Alison made about having the gates beyond where their access to their back of their garages is right immediately by the existing gate leading from Woodford Park. Now, the main reason for sticking my hand up is the council gets a lot of grief over this area on social media. The residents of Woodley believe the council own it and that they should maintain it, and they're not maintaining it very well. And it's all I would like to counterpoint that we actually do nothing to this area, and we look at actually accessing the workshop yard from coming in from the back of the car park. We might have to put a track across part of the field round behind goals and wiggle our way in, but actually keep all vehicle movements within our own property. Could be a problem for the skip lorry, I appreciate, but I do think we need to look at other ways, because I'm concerned that the council is getting bad press over this. We and the council are getting bad press over this.
Okay.
Thank you.
Point taken. We'll wait until we get legal advice.
Yeah.
All right. Next. Allotment borehole.
So yes, so in summary, a report was requested to assess the feasibility of installation of a borehole for water abstraction at the Reading Road allotment site. There are some constraints around that in the groundwater abstraction is limited to 20 cubic metres or 20,000 litres on a daily basis, and that can't be averaged out over a period of time. Anything over that requires a much more complex and costly exercise and a different licence through the Environment Agency. I met on site with the allotments officer and a contractor to look at the potential for that, and they've provided some pricing for a system that would enable that to happen. The pricing for that was in the region of £54,000, which is the installation of a borehole, solar-powered pumping equipment, and the equipment that would abstract that amount of water. One of the limitations to that is, and at the moment I've been trying to get some more information about that. The information we had from that site visit was that you would need a manual intervention when it reached that level on a particular day in order to switch it to the main system. Because if you go over that limit on any given day, you are liable to enforcement action from the Environment Agency for breaching the terms of the licence. And although for much of the year, the consumption is relatively low and would fall below that, obviously during that summer period and on certain days, it would be very high and considerably over that. We don't have accurate details for what that would be on a daily basis. We've got consumption figures for the month of July and August when it's going to be more. Long and short of that is that you'd be looking at a figure of around that sum for a system that still required manual intervention in order to manage it, because you wouldn't be able to go up there and check it, on a Saturday or Sunday or Tuesday to make sure that it was still within those limits in order to manage it in that way. I believe it is possible for an additional system to be installed, but I haven't managed to get a price from them for that as yet. But my understanding was that it would be significantly another significant cost on top of that cost. In theory, it's possible, and it can be done. It's the level at which I think the council wants to pursue that in terms of what the capital cost is to achieve those savings, which obviously take quite a few years to claw back. And part of the issue is that we've got a water system up there that's probably not the best one. From a starting point, we've got a large number of troughs and water pipe work, which is not the most efficient system at the moment anyway. So there's a recommendation there that suggests that that's not a viable proposition at this point for the council to consider. What I would say is we've got significant water consumption elsewhere as well. We use a lot of water in the park. There are other options wider that could be looked at in terms of the council's water consumption as part of perhaps a larger piece of work, if that's something that the council sees as a priority going forwards. And in terms of the allotment site, there is still some work we can do around water harvesting, and there are sites that have, it's much more limited level than that, but there are sites which have stations with tanks and roofs to harvest water and to encourage and to encourage tenants to do more of that themselves. So that's the information we've got.
Okay, so I'm going to do, unless we want to debate it, go straight to the second recommendation, not to proceed unless somebody violently thinks we should proceed.
No, I'm just going to say that the lot was always talking about boreholes. There's going to be a hydrological survey because they're hit and miss, aren't they?
You don't need the full survey unless you're applying for the full licence, which is if you're extracting more than that 20 cubic metres in a day. Yeah.
Mr. Hawkins. Robert.
Thank you, Keith. I won't violently comment, but I will comment on this. I've had experience of 3 boreholes being installed. Each had a 20,000 litres per day limit, and you just set a timer and it just stops at the 20,000. The last one that I commissioned to be installed was £7,500. So while including the pump, it was mains powered. I thought the whole point of having a borehole was this was to actually take us off the mains network, so there wouldn't be a switch over. If they've used 20,000 litres, it switches off. You can't use any more unless you have something like a pond. You put a storage pond in somewhere, and on slack use days, you pump water into it. On high demand days, once you've hit your 20,000, you pump water out. As Kevin said, we could put these also in Woodford Park for watering the football pitches and most importantly, the bowls pitches. And I don't believe the committee should switch this off now. I think we should still keep looking at this going forward and actually look at the whole thing, how much our water bill is for Woodford Park, the allotment, the bowls club, and how much the savings could be if we could get 2 or 3 boreholes put in at once in a better solution. So I think to switch this off, I think would be doing a disservice to those people that have asked for it. Thank you.
The £7,000 you quoted, you don't happen to have in your records detail of exactly what that £7,000 made up? Because 7,000 versus 54,000, unless you did it 50 years ago, there's something remarkably wrong. So any information you have for your £7,000 borehole, please, can you pass on to Kevin?
Yeah, I will certainly try and get it. It was COVID because it was 2 residences were sharing the same borehole, and the Environment Agency said you can't do that anymore. You have to have 1 each. So they actually split the payment between themselves, and the total bill was £7,500. But they were much lower down. Where the allotment is, it's very high, and obviously the strata is different, so there will be different costs depending on how far you go. You've got to be about 60 metres down normally. But anyway, that's not the point. The point is that we don't switch this off now. We continue to look at this as officer time becomes available. Thank you.
What do the committee think?
I'm happy that we do a wider piece of work looking at water usage in general, but I think we ought
come to that in a minute.
we ought to make an indication that at this time, with the costings that we've received,
Yeah.
this doesn't seem a viable option. But
No.
we are going to look at water in general, and we could say that this will be part of that wider.
Is that the general consensus?
Because of the hydrologic survey, then we couldn't say we haven't looked at it fully. That pinpoint more where a borehole would be. That's hydrologic survey.
Okay, so I think sorry, Alison.
Could we also have information on how much supplying water to the allotment costs at the moment?
Yes. We need a cost benefit analysis, don't we?
Yeah.
So I think that's consensus, right? But what I'm interested in your opportunities. It's maybe completely bananas and bonkers, but how much would it cost roughly if we said we're going to buy a water butt, which could be open for every single allotment?
Yeah,
If we bought it.
we looked at in the past, and there are initiatives to provide them. There's potential, basically, for the council to buy in bulk and sell them at a significant.
Well, I'm talking about
discount
not selling
or
them.
Provide to.
Actually providing they are part.
They wouldn't last long. Unless it rains quite often. When I can empty a water butt in a week.
Our water catchment system.
There are options around that, and I think that's something we can consider in that piece of work
it's a
about
wider piece.
what other things we can
There's
do.
got to be alternatives. There's got to be alternatives.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, and it sounds like Kestis in similar, you can get basically sets of tanks with a roof and guttering thing. Obviously, the larger the roof space, you can place those around a site, which might be
But if there isn't
an option
rain,
for
which is
offsetting. So
the point you made, if the rain's not there, it doesn't matter what system you've got.
Well, you need to use main
got no
in
rain.
some way.
Yeah.
I think it will be an offset rather than a
Okay, so
replacement of initially.
I'm going to call an end to this because you've got your answer.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm moving on. If that's okay with everyone.
Please, yeah.
Room hire. We'll do page 70 first, shall we?
Yeah, if I can just again explain what you're looking at here. The council did approve back in 2023 a scheme of delegation which formalised the arrangement for officers to provide discounted rates to hirers, which was up to a maximum of 20% from the appropriate hire rate. and based on whether it met certain criteria, i.e. whether it's very low impact from a setup and service point of view, low usage times where it wouldn't conflict with other bookings, block bookings, long-term commitment to bookings, those sorts of things which gave us that. So all bookings since that point have been allocated on that basis, and that system works well. What we have got is a number of historic rates for hirers which fell outside of that, and a legacy charges essentially from previously. And again, the internal auditor was keen that, and the recommendation was that this committee see what those rates are, because otherwise you wouldn't actually see those. You approve the charges every year, but you wouldn't see what these rates are that currently exist. What we've done with these over the last 2 years, they were on, and you can see that in the 25-26 rates there, they were quite varied. And what we've done in proposed charges for this year is rounded those off and try and bring them closer to the 20%, or move those towards that level of discount. We've done that over a couple of years, and actually there were a number of other ones on there which are now within that level of discount, and that has worked well just by migrating those prices up gradually over the year, so that we can keep those bookings, because we don't necessarily want to lose those hirers, but actually to try and get those onto a better level. There's some rounding there as well, and you can see those rates range from 25% up to 50% for those groups. The recommendation here is for those to be approved, and I think there's probably a couple of ways of looking at it. The principle that we've been working on is working well, which is moving those towards the 20%. Obviously, going from 50 to 20 would be a big leap, but over a period of time, those rates can move more into the scheme of delegation, so that we haven't got as many rates or hirers on those rates that fall outside it. The intention is to report that back at least annually anyway for approval at the point when this committee approves the charges, the room hire charges, so that you see what those rates are, clock them, and approve whether you're happy with those and the direction of travel on them, whether you're happy that they stay the same, and based on those impacts. So it's a tidying up exercise, and there are a few there that you can see that still have a significant level of discount which falls outside the scheme of delegation.
Right. Now, I asked the town clerk several days ago to provide a list of how many times these organisations made a booking in the last year.
Right.
So, for instance, if they're 0, then why are we giving them the potential discount? If they're 100, use 100 slots.
Yeah.
It switches it more, because I think just looking at the discount is just numbers. So you said you've got them.
Yeah, I can tell you what those are if you're looking at that list. So the order I've got them on in here is Berserk Productions. That's school holiday, so a full week during each school holiday period.
So that's how many bookings? Because I don't have children. That's 3?
Summer, probably half term, probably 4.
It's 4, I think. StyleMaker is 3, so that's 3 times per year for a week at a time. Libra Chiropractic is 1 morning every week.
Okay.
Energy Share is one evening, but only once every 3 months. So that's
4 times.
That's one that's dropped off. They used to hire much more, and I think that's where the rates was given. Energy Share, it's it's a kind of positivity group, I think, actually. It's a wellbeing group. Used to book more, and I think that's where that rate had come from, and it's just kind of fallen off over time. The jazz concerts is 4 performances per year. Yes, that's 4 theatre performances. Blood service is around 20 sessions a year, and it's obviously something that we've supported, and is albeit on a significantly discounted rate, is still a good steady income, and arguably a good service. Brings a lot of people in for use the cafe and things as well. Oddfellows Reading is the 2nd Friday of every month, which is a half day. The jewellery booking is now only 1 day every 2 months, and that used to be weekly. That's dropped off again. That's another one that used to be more frequent, which is hence the reduced rate and has become less. And those are ones again that we would be looking to move back up into the scheme of delegation and ultimately onto a standardised price. SLIC, there is a 1 Friday of each month.
SLIC.
Where's that?
I don't see that.
Is it listed as Shahid Unit? Sorry, I'm looking at the other. I'm looking at the spreadsheet links.
TVAES?
No, the one above that. Hang on.
What is TVA?
TVAES is the Thames Valley Ancient Egyptian Society.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, regular?
Yes, that is. So let me just go back. So TVAES is it's 1 Saturday afternoon a month, and that's in the theatre.
And if something like that, are they Woodley residents, so they're already getting the resident rate, and then they're getting this discount on top of it?
Yeah.
What about the Tai Chi one?
Tai Chi.
Maria?
Yes, same would apply there.
What's that? How often's that?
That's weekly, every Friday. So it's a 4-hour session every Friday.
Okay, and what about Woodley Festival?
Woodley Festival.
A few weeks, isn't it?
Yeah, so the level of discount on that is 50%.
Okay, not
Sorry,
30.
You got 36 points.
sorry, I'm looking at Woodley Art Group. Sorry, I'm looking at the wrong one.
Says 50,
Right,
says
moving up,
36.
It's 30%, yeah. So we've moved again. We've moved that up from this year. It was 36.
They're normally 3
So
weekends in
It's 3
in
weekends in
and
March.
then the whole building.
The whole
Because obviously they're taking a lot of money as well.
And what's unique training?
Unique training is 5 bookings a month, so 5 days a month. It's
And is that for
independent
Oliver McGowan
organisation.
training?
Is it what? Sorry.
Is that for Oliver McGowan training? Is it unique training solutions?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not NHS.
No.
I'm paying that.
So you know.
I have
yeah.
a vested interest in that, so I can't comment on that.
Declaration of interest, Councillor Anderson.
But all of these organisations, you're saying, have a strong historic relationship with us.
They do, but as I mentioned, some of those have dropped off in terms of usage, which means if they came to us tomorrow, they wouldn't get that rate.
Well, that's what I was about to ask. So we now know how often they're there, but for some of these, I mean, National Blood, I get that they're here a lot. But something like Lizzie, one evening every 3 months, they wouldn't be getting that discount now, would they?
No, if they came to
Okay.
no. And again, it was different because I think it was weekly
Okay.
at the time when they started.
Okay.
So
So I think the question is whether you're happy with those rates as they stand at this point in time, on the basis that through the course of this year, we will look to change those again, and they will come back to the committee for consideration when we set charges.
Proposed for
Those will be at
26,
different rates.
27, that's what they're going to pay now. So
Yeah.
if, I don't know, it's the National Blood Service, book them from now until March 27, they'll be getting a 25% discount, all right?
Yeah.
Okay.
There is another, there is another way of looking at this, and it's came up because there's another item we're going to be talking about, ARC. And there's 2 ways you can reward people or organisations that use the facilities a lot. One is like this, just a straight, you're going to get 25, you're going to get 40. The other one is switch to, if it's possible, more a volume-oriented discount.
Okay, it's you free.
Yeah, something like that. So you have a rolling schedule that if you book not to 50 or something sessions in a year, and call it sessions, so a session is a day or a half day or whatever, you get this discount. If you do 500, you get a bigger discount. If you do
How would you, if they'd have to book up front, wouldn't they?
Yeah. Yeah.
Which is all
They would
right
have
for
to
some.
commit.
Well, that's
Yeah.
all right, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's something we can work up in terms of
So
the rationale around that. It's just the point that we're at the moment. We have migrated all of these rates up, and if we can do that during the course of this year, so that when we agree charges
But
going in
but
for
what I
next
was
year.
going to ask, if the committee agrees, is to ask Kevin and Matty to go away and look at some sort of volume. Because to me, somebody who's only using it once a month or whatever shouldn't be getting 60 or 70%. Someone who's using it 1,000 times in the year, like ARC, Sales and Sessions,
Yes,
damn it, they should get
they should.
that. They should get that higher, and it builds in loyalty as well.
Yes, yeah, that's a good idea.
Well, so what I was going to suggest that we say to Kevin to go away, look at that with a view of implementing it for next year.
Yeah.
Sorry,
Earlier in
Alison.
the meeting, we looked at the Oakwood Centre room hire, our budget, what we're actually getting. So our budget of what you think the Oakwood Centre hire will be, that includes figures based on these proposed reduced discounts, or is it on the last year's?
This year's budget was increased with an intention to increase bookings in the centre this year over the year anyway, so it wasn't directly attributable to the increase in charges. But usually, in the last few years, when we've increased the budget for income here, it has purely been by the same RPI amount that all charges would have been increased by. So all the charges would have gone up by RPI, and even these more random rates, whatever rate they were on last year, would have gone up by that RPI. That's where this is changing now.
So if we're cutting the discount on these people, that's going to increase our income for the Oakwood Centre for the coming year.
Yes, if they continue the booking.
Obviously, it jumps out to me that one of the applications for a grant is in this list. So we are already helping Woodley Festival of Music and Art by giving them
And Berserk.
a discounted.
Was it Berserk? I thought, carry on.
But yes, you're right.
Yeah.
it wouldn't affect-
So I think perhaps we
It's
should
a
join
grant,
those
and
two
then-
things up in the grant application in another time.
Good.
Yeah, actually, that's something that could be included for context in terms of grant applications when they come through. Is there any other discounted benefit being applied? Yeah.
Okay, got a plan then? Good.
Yeah.
Okay. You happy with that?
Yes. Yeah.
So are we approving the discounted room hire rates for 26-27, or going to just?
Yeah, I think you're approving those rates for now because we're in that year and we need to be charging. And but on the basis that we will do that review, work out that volume-based charging structure for next year.
Thank you. And when you do that work, what you might want to do is look at the people who are like National Blood, who are the high volume users.
Yeah.
And try and sort of play around with the numbers to get it so that they're actually paying exactly the same now, and use that as a benchmark. Because they're the ones who deserve, like National Blood, definitely.
And how do they pay? Do they pay in blocks or do they pay as they use?
I'm not sure actually how.
We
not
might
sure.
need to think
Have
about
check.
if we
Yeah.
can, if they do a block booking, do they get a bit of a discount?
Yeah, I mean, they do block, they do book in advance in those blocks. I'm not sure, I'll have to check what.
They invoice
the
at different
invoicing
rates
is.
depending on what
Yeah.
kind of suits. Sometimes if they're very regular, it'll be a monthly invoice. Sometimes it might be for a term. Sometimes it really depends on the kind of relationship.
Okay.
Robert,
Keith, you said ARC use it 1,000 times a year. They use it 134 times a year over 3-hour sessions. Yeah. Are we discussing Appendix 14B at the same point?
no,
Is this a
that's the next,
That's separate.
that's separate. We're
Okay.
just doing 14A.
Thank you. I'll come back to that then, please.
Okay. Now, before with the agreement with group, I would like to skip B and do C,
Okay.
and then go back to B, because I think B will take some debate. I'm hoping C won't, but who knows? So we have, good old Ronnie, trying to do his bit for Ukraine. There is an event that's booked here. How are the tickets going? Good, Bud? How are the tickets going?
Not bad.
Good. I hope you've all got yours.
We
Yeah. Right, so there's a request of free use. I throw it open to the floor.
Yes?
Okay,
Yes.
I believe we should, yes.
okay. All those in
Agreed.
favour, please show.
That's 6.
Sorted.
Right, no, you don't have to stay, Ronnie, you, if you want to. You can take Wolf home. So, B. Request, would you like to?
Yes, so this was prompted from the grant for art counselling being reduced in this year due to the pressures that the council was experiencing. When contacting art counselling in relation to that and their rental arrangement, Paul Cassidy, the coordinator, expressed a desire for the council to consider the rent rate for the room in the context of their reduced grant funding. What I've produced here is a breakdown based on approximate number of sessions that we used over the last 12 months. And the way that ARC have historically been billed was for a block charge for however many sessions they used through the years. They had an annual charge rather than a per session charge. So the calculation here is based on the 134 sessions over the last 12 months. You can see what that works out at in terms of the discounted rate or the equivalent rate that is being paid per hour. But that's not the way it was assessed when it was set up. My understanding is, because it's an historic arrangement, is that the principle really was that the grant would cover the room hire cost, so that it was that kind of trade-off, that the council would provide a grant and that would offset the cost of room hire, albeit it was never set specifically in terms of how many sessions that might involve. Over time that has changed. Obviously ARC have been extremely busy and the demand for services has been significant, and they've been able to provide more sessions at the Oakwood Centre and make use of that. But the request is there as to whether the council can do anything with.
So can I ask a question about the place they use? They use an interview room.
This is the small room down by the council offices.
Is that used for anything else?
I don't believe at the moment any other hirers are using it.
Okay.
It's mostly empty. It's, members that don't know, it's literally a small room that was set up for those purposes. Really, it's a table and 2 chairs.
Counselling room for the youth of Woodley, isn't it? And maybe we could label it as such and let them have that, and we could use it when we need to use it with an arrangement with them, because that would fill the gap of the money that we didn't give to the youth budget this year.
Good idea.
See where you go. Can we have, I don't know if you've got access to the data, confirmation of usage of that room?
Yeah, I think that's important. If we're not using it.
Well.
And the ARC sessions are all evening sessions. They're not daytime, so it still actually is available for use.
Extra with security or.
There would be times when there's a session running and there's nothing else in the building, and we would have had a member of staff.
And we would have shut the building normally. We probably just need to
There
get
is
our
an
ducks in a
offset
row
there.
and make sure that doesn't happen then. But that, if
Or
it's
they may-
open,
If we gave it them free, the scenario you've just charged them a notional fee to cover security.
if they
rather-
must have it on a third Wednesday of the month when it's normally going to be shut, but I suspect if you spoke to them, they would do it when it would be open.
What I think that's a good proposal. What other people? Yeah. So could I potentially suggest then we adopt that? Sorry.
I think, I mean, at the moment they're saying that you have approximately 134 3-hour sessions. So I think we would say we would be willing to offer you, say, a maximum of 150 hours use of the room. I think we would want to cap it.
Why? If we're giving them a room, why would we cap the use? Surely to God we
Do we
want.
not use that room for anything else
No.
ever?
Well, that's
that's
the
what they're
question.
just-
That's the question
I
we
mean, not
need
at
to
the
know.
moment.
Oh, right. Yeah, no, in that case, then.
So I'm going to suggest, subject to confirmation on the usage of that room,
Yeah.
we adopt Juliet's proposal that we give them
And publicly give them that.
and publicly give them that, but also say this is a 1 year.
Yeah.
Offer
But
and
it's
let's review
another
it.
bit of youth provision, isn't
Well,
it?
Oh, yeah.
And that's important. And we're
It
always
is.
saying there isn't enough.
It is, yeah.
You know, we've evidenced that the numbers of sessions have gone up, so the need is clearly there.
Yeah.
I just think we ought to do something about that.
I can definitely give you quick numbers for
Yeah.
last year. Up to, I think
Outside of ARC.
this is up to, outside of ARC, yeah, this was the data we had up, I think, until
yeah.
middle of January. So it was to the end of the year, but if there are others. So we had a group called Equisfrid used it for 10 times. Foundry College used it on 15 occasions. There was a couple of individual groups that used it on one occasion. Woking and PYJS used it on one occasion, and then the Carnival Committee have used it a few times, and Woodley Festival of Musical Art used it once. So they would have been used it because they might have not been able to get into a room and they just needed a dotting room
I
and
think
stuff.
all of those bookings are daytime and all the art
Yeah.
bookings are evening. Yeah.
So
It doesn't
would work,
impact.
wouldn't it? If there was a
Yeah,
sign
there
on the
would- there
door,
would be a
it would be, you can use this
Yeah.
by exception.
Good.
Okay. Right. All those in favour, please show.
6-4.
Should really have. Juliet proposed it, I second it,
Yeah.
just to be. Item 15, Theatre Development Task and Finish Group, 75.
Yeah, I'll do this briefly. Obviously, last meeting I presented a report about potential development and ongoing work with that. I'm aware at that last meeting I wasn't attending, but I watched back and I heard obviously the questions. And obviously I understand there's quite a lot of questions to go through and understanding what the appropriate business model is for it. And I understand the queries around that. In order to give due time to those conversations, it will make sense to do that with a smaller group of councillors on a working group to be able to nail down the most appropriate business model for this building. We're also obviously ongoing with the theatre upgrades. We had Blue Horizon in today having a look and detailing up what they think actually we will need as equipment, a bit more detailed than what they provided before, and they're coming up with a proposal which will come back to this working group ready for a tender to hopefully go out in the autumn. So it makes sense to do it. It shouldn't be too onerous. I'm hoping it would be potentially one meeting now in the next kind of month or two for those reasons, and then once again when we get closer to tender, and if it develops after that, great. But right now it's not too onerous. So yeah, I don't know if anyone's got any questions on the actual terms of reference to what it covers.
Proportionality?
Proportionality is always stands if it's not written otherwise, so it would be proportionality on here, yeah, which would be 3 Conservative group members and 1 Labour group member.
Yeah, because there's only a couple of Lib Dems, only a couple of independents.
Yes, on groups of 4, there's it's only 3 and 1 is the split.
Okay, so I've got to find
Good.
three people for you. I know one.
Me.
Oh, there's 2.
Me.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do you want to propose the terms of reference and appointment?
But point them, no one fitting in. What do you think, Greg? From your side, it would be you? I think that would be good.
Yeah.
We just need a third.
It doesn't need to be from this committee, though, does it?
No.
No.
It can be from the full council
I'm just
members. Yep.
thinking. I'll get back to you.
You can fund some. Sure.
We've had it before where committees have named people afterwards as it's your group. It doesn't make that much of a difference. So yeah, we can take that after the meeting if you're happy to.
Okay.
And if you've got
So you've
three,
got the names.
I've got- yeah.
and if you've got 3 members, it could even meet.
Yeah, that's if we can get
It'd
the
be
dates
nice
for
if we
everyone.
could
It's
meet
quite
virtually as well.
Oh, absolutely. We always try and do those meetings virtually because it's easier for us. Can you approve the terms of reference?
Call those in favour, please show.
Done.
Brilliant. Thank you.
Climate Emergency Action Plan Update, page 77.
I'll keep this brief as well. So I think you'll recall in September's full council, because we had to skip the S&R, we brought through a proposal about getting a new system in place for us to monitor our carbon footprint as they're ongoing. And also there was an agreement at that meeting to update our climate emergency action plan to reflect the targets that had come out of our carbon footprint assessment for 23-24. So essentially the action plan has now been updated to reflect those targets. There is a change of target in there, and that's probably the key change to everything, which is obviously that the council will target a 50% reduction of emissions by 2033 and 90% by 2050. The standard is if you've reduced your carbon by 90% by 2050, then any remaining residual that you cannot reduce, you can offset, and you will be considered as net zero at that point. That's why those are there. They are the standard Paris Agreement terms that Carbon Footprint have recommended we do. So those are the changes in there. We are proceeding with work. Darren and Sean in the office are picking up now on the new carbon footprint measuring tool. We're getting in last year's data over the next few months, and then we'll be starting to do that on an ongoing monthly basis to track it, with the intention over the next 2 to 3 years of getting a better grip and handle on the accuracy of that data, moving from what we call spend-based data, where you put the amount of money you spend on a product in and it tells you a code, to actually what company you buy it from, the exact carbon footprint for that company or that product, which helps make your assessment more accurate and make spending decisions which actually over the next few years will start lowering our footprint. It's a long-term task, as you can see. It's only 2033 that we've got to hit our first target, although the council has committed in full council to start offsetting from the 29-30 financial year onwards. So when we know what the footprint is for 29-30, which will be later in 2030, at that point we'll be offsetting that amount through funding schemes. Offsetting is not a huge amount of money. It would have cost us, I think, something less than £2,000 to offset our footprint from before. So it's not a huge amount to need to do that, but that's where we're moving. So yeah, what we're asking here is obviously to adopt the new updated action plan.
Any questions, or can I go straight to the vote?
Well, can I just ask, on page 82, for example, it says eradicate use of plastic cups. Great, completely support that. But there's nothing filled in on things like cost and target date. I mean, that seems to be something we could get started on straight away.
Those now. So those are things that we need to start doing and kind of work into this. There's lots of more actions that need to be incorporated in here from the footprinting exercise. So over the next sort of 6 months or so, this will become more data. What's happened here is the structure of the document has been updated, and the contents of the action plan, the opening has changed. The actual actions in here, we all need to have a much closer focus on what those need to be, and we'll do that now based on this document moving forwards.
Did this come from a working group?
No, this came from from full council asking this to be changed after the carbon footprint assessment.
All right.
If there's no comments, can I go to the vote? All those in favour for adopting this climate plan? Thank you. Right. Any future agenda items or publicity and website?
Can I make a suggestion, Chair? There might be some new councillors next time round, and would you consider putting some sort of financial training?
We're talking about May 27th, because that's when the next elections for this town council is.
In that case, perhaps not.
The idea is right, but it's premature.
Yes, forward thinking. Yeah.
Right, if not,
I was just going to say very quickly, what I would say is we are looking at training opportunities for members going forwards.
Yeah, on the finances.
Yeah.
okay, so item 19, exclusion of public and press. To resolve in line with Standing Order 12.2, in view of the confidential nature of the business about to be transacted in relation to personal matters, it is advisable in the public interest that the public and press are temporarily excluded, and they are asked to withdraw for item 20 on the agenda.